Alright, guys. We need to have a talk. And I'm talking to the guys here. I don't even know how many women even watch my channel. But we need to have a talk. There is a thing out there that, or a conversation, I guess, that got started, or that has started recently about toxic masculinity. And I'm going to say this. Almost every single one of the examples they give you of what is toxic masculinity is not an example of masculinity. It's an example of toxic behavior, but it's not an example of toxic masculinity. I'm going to say this right now, guys. If you're out there sending unwanted dick pics to random women on the internet, or lewd comments to girls you've never met before, that you've just seen their picture on Facebook, and I know this happens. It happens to my family, it happens to my friends, happens to my sister, happens to my mother. I'm sure my wife even gets them, but she doesn't tell me about them. Because she knows it would just piss me off. Guys, if you're acting like that, that's bullshit behavior. Excuse my language. But act like a real man. Act like a gentleman. Hold your door for a woman. Have a conversation with a woman. And if she says, hey, I'm not interested, respect that. Say, okay, I understand you're not interested, and move on down the line. God, social media perpetuated this. And I wanted to say that it's not a cultural thing, but it has become a cultural thing. Because of the internet and because of social media. Because guys know that if they throw 100 lines out there in the water, one of them is going to catch a fish. And I know that it's not 99% of women, but the small percentage of women that accept that behavior from men needs to stop as well. You women need to call these men out publicly. If a man sends you a dick pic, you get into his friends list and find his mother, his grandmother, his brothers, his sisters, and say, look what this jerk is sending to women. Look how he is treating women. Yeah, I'm telling you to publicly blast and shame a guy like that. Because if more men found that kind of action reprehensible and shameful, I guarantee you that chivalry and acting like a gentleman and treating women with respect would come back as the preferred way to attract a mate. I was at play rehearsal. My family and I are all in a local production of The Wizard of Oz. And I think for a local production, for such a small production, it's going to turn out to be pretty phenomenal. But at the rehearsal, we're in one building and the restrooms are in another. So we have bathroom breaks. And the guy who has the keys to open up the other building, takes everybody over there. And my son had to go. I guess he was running. And he told my son yesterday, as they were leaving, say, hey, hold the door open for the girls. And my son just ran right in and said, equality for all, this is 2019. My 9-year-old son. Just... Now, I'm getting this information second and third hand from my wife. I wasn't there. I didn't see it happen. I only heard the story afterwards. So I don't know if that's exactly what happened. But that's the gist of the story. And if my son at 9 years old is already treating women with that little respect, I don't know where I screwed up. 99% of the time, my son holds the door open for complete strangers that are 20 feet away, where it's awkward when you hold the door open for someone. So seeing that kind of behavior from my son, it's an anomaly. It's not something that he normally does. But I'm nipping that BS in the bud today. Guys, we can all do better. There's no excuse for it. There are explanations, but there's no excuse. So many young men being brought up in homes without a positive role model. Because me and my stepfather may have had our issues and had our problems together, but that man respected women. If I had acted like my son, I'd have got my ass beat. You know, my parents got divorced when I was very young. And my mom remarried a man who was much different than my father. I'm not criticizing my father. I'm just saying during those years when I was growing up and learning how to treat women, I lived with my mother and stepfather. And my stepfather showed me what it meant to be a gentleman, what it meant to hold the door open, you know, to treat women as better than yourself. What real masculinity means. That man taught me that there are behaviors that are not acceptable. Man, for you young men out there, I swear, if social media had been around when I was growing up, and some of the messages that my sister gets were sent to her in high school, or if he had caught me sending those kind of messages, I'd have been grounded for a year. Hell, till the end of time, and probably gotten the belt. Now, I don't condone physical violence. That's not what I'm saying at all. Because for those of you that know, me and my stepdad clashed many times. And when I got big enough, things changed. As far as discipline, because I wouldn't take his form of discipline anymore. But that still doesn't mean I didn't learn what was right and wrong. Because even when he was disciplining me the wrong way, he still sat me down and told me why he was doing what he was doing. And if more men, guys, if you know a single woman with a young son growing up, whether you're a brother, an uncle, a friend, and you see their son doing something stupid, I guarantee you that mom is going to appreciate you taking her son aside and saying, look, this behavior is not acceptable. That is not how you treat women. That is not how you treat another human being. I'm just going to leave it at that, guys. I hope you guys are enjoying my content. I'm sorry I'm so worked up. No, I'm not sorry I'm so worked up. It needs to get worked up. More men need to get worked up about other guys being prepubescent jerk-offs. Anyway, guys, that's it for me. Have a good day. I'll talk to you later.